Did you know there is an exact mathematical moment where your money officially becomes more powerful than your labor? It is a quiet threshold. There are no fireworks or congratulatory letters from your boss. But passing this invisible line changes the entire trajectory of your existence. For the vast majority of people, this moment remains a total mystery. They will spend 40 years trading the best hours of their waking life for a paycheck, completely unaware that a mathematical escape hatch exists. We are conditioned from a very young age to view work as an eternal sentence. You go to school, get a job, climb the ladder, and keep running on the treadmill until your body gives out in your late 60s. Society tells you to save a little bit on the side, cross your fingers, and hope you will eventually have enough to rest. We accept this as the normal way of the world. We assume exhaustion is just the price of admission for a decent life. Here's the harsh truth. Most people are completely misinterpreting what money is actually for. We treat money as a mechanism to acquire things. We use it to buy bigger houses, newer cars, and a certain image to present to our neighbors. But every time we use our income to upgrade our lifestyle, we are simultaneously signing away more of our future time to an employer. We are extending our sentence, pushing the finish line further away, and trapping ourselves in endless labor just to maintain a facade. There is an entirely different way to approach your finances, one rooted in pure mathematics rather than societal expectations. It is based on a concept known as the crossover point. The crossover point is the exact financial milestone where the income generated automatically by your investments becomes greater than your monthly cost of living. It is the precise moment when your portfolio starts paying you a permanent salary that is completely disconnected from how many hours you clock in at an office. When you finally internalize this concept, your entire worldview shifts. Money transforms from a tool for mindless consumption into a tool for permanent liberation. The math doesn't lie. If your investments generate $4,000 a month and your living expenses are only $3,500 a month, you have officially won the game. Your labor is no longer required for your basic survival. You have reached financial independence, and from that day forward, every hour you spend working is completely voluntary. True wealth is not about looking rich or playing the status game. Wealth is what you don't see. It is the unbought luxury vehicles and the modest home that allow you to quietly stockpile income-producing assets. It is the hidden machinery working tirelessly in the background, compounding day and night. While the rest of the world is busy trying to outspend each other, a small fraction of people are quietly building an invisible engine that will eventually buy back their lives. The ultimate goal of this engine is pure time freedom. Time freedom is the ability to wake up on a Tuesday morning and decide exactly how you want to spend the next 24 hours. It is the power to say no to toxic bosses, brutal commutes, and meaningless meetings. It is the capacity to sit down with your family or pursue a creative passion without the looming anxiety of financial ruin. Today, we are going to tear apart the mechanics of this crossover point. We will look at the psychology of the people who achieve it and the behavioral traps that keep everyone else broke. We will break down the exact mathematics required to reach this milestone, and we will reveal why buying back your time is the single most important pursuit of your adult life. Once you learn the math of the crossover point, you will never look at your paycheck the same way again. Let us look at two very different lives to understand how this plays out in the real world. Meet Marcus. Marcus is a high-level director at a tech firm, pulling in $250,000 a year. By every conventional metric, he has made it. When Marcus pulls up to a stoplight in his European luxury sedan, people look at him and assume he is incredibly rich. He wears tailored suits, takes vacations to exclusive resorts, and lives in a sprawling home in the best zip code in the city. But if you pull back the curtain on Marcus's life, the picture changes entirely. Marcus is actively playing the status game. He believes that his high income requires a high lifestyle to match. His massive mortgage eats up a huge chunk of his monthly take-home pay. The luxury car is leased, requiring hefty payments every single month. The private schools for his kids, the expensive dinners out, and the constant need to upgrade his gadgets drain whatever is left in his bank account. Marcus is generating a tremendous amount of cash, but he is keeping absolutely none of it. He has accumulated a dangerous amount of social debt, which is the money you are forced to spend just to maintain your place in a specific social circle. Because his lifestyle costs so much to maintain, his personal crossover point is mathematically impossible to reach. His expenses are a towering mountain, and his actual investments are just a tiny pile of rocks at the base. The emotional toll on Marcus is devastating. Despite his enormous salary, he lives in constant fear. If he loses his job, the entire illusion collapses in a matter of months. He is chained to his desk, forced to endure immense corporate pressure because he desperately needs that next paycheck. Marcus doesn't own his life. His creditors, his mortgage lender, and his employer own his life. He is a very well-paid prisoner of his own making. Now let us contrast Marcus with Elena. Elena is a mid-level manager making $80,000 a year. If she pulled up next to Marcus at that same stoplight, you wouldn't look twice at her. She drives an 8-year-old hatchback that she bought in cash. She lives in a comfortable but modest townhome in a quiet, unassuming neighborhood. She rarely buys designer clothes and prefers hiking on the weekends to dropping hundreds of dollars at trendy restaurants. To the untrained eye, Elena looks entirely average. Some of her friends even whisper that she is falling behind in life because she isn't upgrading her surroundings. But wealth is what you don't see. Behind the scenes, Elena is a financial powerhouse. Because she intentionally keeps her cost of living low, she has a massive gap between what she earns and what she spends. She doesn't care about the status game. She only cares about buying back her freedom. Every single month, Elena takes that gap and funnels it straight into income-producing assets. She isn't buying things, she is buying time freedom. She understands the simple math that every $100 she invests today is a permanent reduction in the number of hours she has to work in the future. She is quietly and methodically building an invisible financial engine that grows stronger with every passing year. Because Elena's living expenses are so low, her required crossover point is incredibly easy to hit. She doesn't need to generate $20,000 a month in passive income like Marcus does. She only needs $3,000 a month to cover her basic needs and enjoy her life. The math is completely on her side. By the time they both reach their mid-40s, the stark difference in their strategies becomes undeniably clear. Marcus gets a raise to $300,000, but he immediately buys a bigger house, completely resetting his progress to zero. He is more stressed and exhausted than ever. Elena, on the other hand, quietly crosses her finish line. Her modest investments have grown, and they now produce enough yield to cover her simple lifestyle indefinitely. Elena didn't need a massive salary to win the game. She just needed discipline and an understanding of how the math actually works. She is now completely free to quit her job, start a business, or simply read books in the sun for the rest of her life. Marcus looks rich, but is deeply impoverished in the currency of time. Elena looks ordinary, but possesses the ultimate wealth, which is absolute autonomy over her own existence. To understand exactly how Elena bought her freedom while Marcus remained trapped, we have to look under the hood of her financial engine. What exactly is the crossover point in purely mathematical terms? It isn't a mystical state of enlightenment. It's a cold, hard calculation that anyone can perform right now. The societal script we're all handed is painfully linear. We're told to save perhaps 10% of our income, drop it into a standard retirement account, and pray. The stock market is kind to us over the next 40 years. We're taught that retirement is an age, specifically 65, and that reaching it is just a matter of surviving the daily grind for 4 consecutive decades. This traditional approach completely misunderstands how money actually works. It makes your age the primary variable in the equation, rather than your savings rate. It assumes that you must forfeit your physical prime to an employer. But the universe doesn't care how old you are. The stock market doesn't check your birth certificate before paying out dividends. The mathematical reality is entirely different. The crossover point is triggered the second your passive income surpasses your active living expenses. It's a simple tipping point on a scale. On one side, you have the cost of keeping yourself alive and happy. On the other side, you have the yield generated by your capital. When the capital side gets heavier, you're officially free. But how do you actually calculate the weight of that capital? In the world of finance, There's a widely accepted guideline known as the 4% rule. It's a deeply researched concept that states if you invest your money in a broadly diversified portfolio of index funds, you can safely withdraw 4% of that total amount every single year, adjusted for inflation, and practically never run out of money. Let's break the math down so you can visualize it. If your annual living expenses are $40,000, you simply multiply that number by 25. The result is $1 million. That $1 million is your ultimate target. It's the exact amount of capital required to generate $40,000 a year in passive income forever. Now, to someone who hasn't been taught financial mechanics, accumulating $1 million sounds like an impossible mountain to climb. You might be thinking that you could never save that much money from your regular paycheck. And you'd be right. But you aren't supposed to save your way to $1 million. You're supposed to compound your way there. Compound interest is the magical force that does the heavy lifting for you. It's the process of your money earning a return, and then that return earning its own return. In the beginning, the growth is painfully slow. Saving your first $100,000 is a brutal grind that requires extreme discipline. But once that foundation is built, the math takes over. As your portfolio grows, the compounding snowball gets larger and faster. Eventually, the interest your money earns in a single year will be greater than the amount you contributed from your own salary. Your money starts working harder than you do. It works on weekends, it works while you sleep, and it never asks for a vacation. Here's the harsh truth. Reaching this crossover point has very little to do with your salary and everything to do with the gap between your income and your ego. If you keep your expenses artificially low, your target number shrinks dramatically. And when your target number shrinks, compound interest drags you across the finish line decades before society expects you to retire. If the mathematics of the crossover point are so straightforward, we have to ask why so few people ever actually reach it. If all it takes is building a gap between your income and your expenses and letting compound interest do the rest, why are millions of incredibly smart and hardworking individuals constantly stressed about money? The answer is a psychological trap that almost everyone falls into without even realizing it. It is the trap of the moving finish line. When you start your career, your financial needs are usually quite basic. You just want a roof over your head, food in the fridge, and a little bit of spending money for the weekend. But as you get older, gain more experience, and start earning a higher salary, a silent shift begins to happen. You start to look around at your peers, your neighbors, and the marketing messages bombarding you every single day. Slowly but surely, your definition of a basic need begins to expand. This phenomenon is commonly known as lifestyle creep, but a more accurate term for it is voluntary wage slavery. Every time you get a raise, a bonus, or a promotion, you immediately find a way to absorb that extra cash into your daily life. You move into a slightly larger apartment. You trade in your reliable car for something with a luxury badge. You stop cooking at home and start ordering expensive takeout every night because you feel like you have earned it. Here's the harsh truth. Society conditions us to believe that the ultimate reward for hard work is the ability to consume more expensive things. We are told that upgrading our lifestyle is the only valid proof that we are succeeding in the world. When Marcus, our high-earning executive from earlier, got a $50,000 bonus, he didn't view it as a tool to buy back his time. He viewed it as permission to renovate his perfectly functional kitchen and book a lavish vacation. By absorbing every increase in income into his lifestyle, Marcus is constantly moving his own finish line further away. Remember the calculation for the crossover point. Your required capital is 25 times your annual expenses. If you increase your annual spending by just $10,000 a year, you instantly increase your required target by $250,000. The math doesn't lie. Every lifestyle upgrade is a heavy chain that anchors you to your desk for years longer than necessary. To actually win this game, you have to do something that feels incredibly unnatural in our modern culture. You have to lock your finish line in place. You must calculate exactly how much money you need to live a comfortable, healthy, and fulfilling life, and then you have to ruthlessly protect that number from inflation. When your income grows, your standard of living must remain largely static. This doesn't mean you have to live in absolute deprivation. It simply means you must disconnect your consumption from your income. If you find true contentment living on $40,000 a year, and your salary suddenly jumps to $80,000, you shouldn't change a single thing about your daily routine. That extra $40,000 is not fun money. It is raw fuel for your crossover engine. The people who look the richest are usually the ones who are the most trapped by this moving target. They are playing an exhausting game of catch-up, constantly trying to out-earn their own accelerating spending habits. It is a terrifying way to live because there is no safety net. If their high income suddenly stops, their elevated lifestyle comes crashing down around them almost immediately. Wealth is what you don't see. The truly wealthy individuals are the ones who have mastered the art of enough. They have recognized that a slightly nicer car or a larger backyard will not materially change their baseline level of happiness. But having absolute control over their own schedule will change everything. They are willing to look a little bit boring to the outside world in exchange for internal peace of mind. Breaking free from the trap of the moving finish line requires a radical shift in how you view your own success. You have to stop measuring your worth by the things you can buy and start measuring it by the amount of time you actually control. Once you fix your target in place and stop moving the goalposts, hitting that crossover point changes from an impossible dream into a mathematical certainty. Once you fix your finish line in place, you might still feel intimidated by the time it takes to build a large portfolio. The societal script assumes you must maintain a high income and save aggressively until the exact day you hand in your retirement papers. It is a grueling marathon that leaves most people completely drained. But there are mathematical shortcuts available if you are willing to think differently about how you live. These are the accelerators. The first massive accelerator is a concept known as Coast-Fi. Coast-Fi is a profound mathematical milestone that completely changes your relationship with your job long before you reach full financial independence. It is the specific point where you have accumulated enough money in your investments early in your career that you never need to contribute another dime. You have built a foundation large enough that compound interest will push it all the way to your final target by itself. Let us look at how the math actually works. Imagine you aggressively invest $200,000 by the time you are 35 years old. If you never add another penny to that account, and it simply grows at an average historical rate of 7% after inflation, it doubles roughly every 10 years. By age 45, it is $400,000. By 55, it is $800,000. By 65, it is over $1.6 million. The math doesn't lie. Reaching Coast-Fi doesn't mean you can stop working completely today. You still need to earn enough to cover your current living expenses. But the mindset shift is absolutely staggering. Because your future is fully funded by your past efforts, you instantly drop the heavy burden of needing to save a portion of your paycheck. You can quit the toxic corporate job and take a lower-paying role that you actually enjoy, because you only need to cover your daily survival. The second powerful accelerator is called geographic arbitrage. The normal societal script traps people in incredibly expensive cities because that is where the high-paying jobs are located. We pay a massive premium for housing, food, and taxes just to be near a specific office building. But in an era where remote work and digital businesses are entirely possible, your physical location is just another variable in the overall equation. Geographic arbitrage is the strategic decision to earn your money in a strong economy and spend your money in a low-cost environment. It is the ultimate hack for your crossover point. Remember that your required wealth target is simply 25 times your annual expenses. If you drastically reduce those expenses overnight by changing your zip code, you instantly slash the amount of capital you need to be free. Imagine you are living in a major city where your basic expenses are $5,000 a month. Your crossover target is $1.5 million. That is a massive mountain to climb. But what if you move to a beautiful, lower-cost town, or relocate entirely to a place with a lower cost of living? Suddenly, your living expenses drop to just $2,000 a month. Your quality of life remains the same, but the underlying math transforms completely. By simply moving to a place where life costs less, you instantly reduce your required target to just $600,000. Here's the harsh truth. You just shaved decades of mandatory labor off your life sentence in a single decision. You didn't have to earn more or grind harder to do it. You simply manipulated the mathematical variables to work entirely in your favor. Combining coast-fi and geographic arbitrage unlocks a completely different reality. You realize that you don't have to sacrifice your youth and your health just to have a few good years of rest at the very end of your life. Wealth is what you don't see. And true wealth is the mental flexibility to design a life that requires a fraction of the capital society demands. You are actively pulling your ultimate freedom forward. When you finally hit that mathematical threshold and your passive income exceeds your living expenses, something profound happens to your psychology. To the outside world, you look exactly the same. You might even still be driving the same modest car and living in the same unassuming house. But internally, the architecture of your mind has fundamentally shifted. You have crossed the invisible line from a life of mandatory labor to a life of absolute voluntary participation. For decades, your entire existence was subconsciously governed by a low-level hum of existential dread. It's the fear that if you miss a paycheck, if your company downsizes, or if you simply get sick, your entire foundation will collapse. This fear is the invisible leash that keeps people tethered to their desks late into the evening, nodding along to terrible ideas in corporate boardrooms. But the day after you cross your threshold, that leash simply dissolves. Think back to Marcus, our high earner who is completely dependent on his massive salary. Every single day, he wakes up with the heavy realization that he owes his lifestyle to his employer. His identity and his survival are completely intertwined with his job title. If he's yelled at by his boss, he has to swallow his pride and take it. The anxiety of wage dependence dictates how he speaks, how he acts, and ultimately, how he values himself. Now consider the psychological reality of the post-crossover life. When your basic survival is mathematically guaranteed by your portfolio, you experience a level of peace that money alone cannot buy. Time freedom completely rewrites your daily reality. You no longer wake up in a panic because an alarm clock demanded it. You wake up because your body is fully rested, and you choose exactly how to deploy your energy for the next 24 hours. Here's the harsh truth. Most people believe that if they didn't have to work, they'd just sit on a beach and do absolutely nothing for the rest of their lives. But human beings are naturally wired for purpose and contribution. When you remove the desperate need for a paycheck, you rarely stop working altogether. Instead, the nature of your work changes completely. You transition from working for basic survival to working for meaning, impact, or pure enjoyment. There's a fascinating paradox that occurs when you no longer need the money. You actually become significantly better at whatever you choose to do. Because the fear of losing your job is entirely removed, you stop playing exhausting office politics. You stop saying yes to things that are a total waste of time. You start speaking the unvarnished truth, taking bigger creative risks, and pushing for genuine innovation because you aren't terrified of getting fired. In financial circles, this state of being is often crudely but accurately referred to as having walk-away money. It's the ultimate superpower in the modern world. If a client is toxic, you drop them. If a boss is abusive, you simply pack up your desk and go home. Your ability to walk away from any situation that drains your energy or violates your personal principles is the purest definition of personal sovereignty. Wealth is what you don't see. True wealth is the quiet confidence that radiates from someone who's in complete control of their own timeline. It's the total absence of frantic energy. It's the deep, steady breathing of a person who knows that no matter what happens in the broader economy, their personal mathematical equation is already solved and their future is entirely secure. This psychological freedom is the absolute true prize of the financial independence journey. But it's a prize that millions of incredibly smart people will willingly forfeit because they can't stop playing the game of social comparison. They'll trade away this profound inner peace simply to project an image of success to people they don't even really like. And the price they pay for that trade is the highest price of all. Let us step away from the pure mathematics for a moment and look at the emotional tragedy of the alternative. The most dangerous trap in the modern world is not debt itself, but the status game that creates it. The status game is a completely unwinnable competition because the finish line is a mirage. Every time you level up your income and buy the next luxury item, you are simply moved into a new neighborhood. or a new peer group where everyone else has the exact same things. You are running as fast as you can just to stay completely still. The psychological cost of this game is absolutely staggering. When you purchase a luxury watch or a high-end vehicle to impress people, you are not just spending money. You are trading pieces of your one wild and precious life for the temporary approval of strangers. You are converting your irreplaceable, non-renewable time into rapidly depreciating metal and plastic. This is the ultimate tragedy of the high-earning professional. They are bleeding their life force into objects that will never love them back. We are sold a devastating lie called the deferred life plan. Society tells us to put our heads down, endure the corporate grind, and save all of our actual living for a magical window called retirement. We are instructed to hoard our time and energy for a future date that is completely unpromised. We assume we will have the exact same health, vitality, and desire for adventure at age 70 that we do at age 35. Here's the harsh truth. The window of opportunity to enjoy certain aspects of being alive closes much faster than we want to admit. You might successfully grind until you are 65 and retire with a massive portfolio, but your physical reality will have changed. Your knees might not handle that backpacking trip through Europe. Your risk tolerance will drop. Your children will be grown and gone. You cannot simply hit pause on your life, accumulate money for 40 years, and expect everything to be waiting for you when you return. This brings us to a profound concept known as memory dividends. We are very good at understanding how financial investments compound over time, but experiences compound in the exact same way. When you use your time freedom to take a massive adventure or spend a deeply connected week with your family when you are 30, that memory pays you a dividend of joy every single time you recall it for the next 50 years. If you delay that exact same experience until you are 75, the memory only has a few years to pay out its dividend. The payout period is incredibly short. This means that mathematically and psychologically, experiencing life while you are young is actually far more valuable than experiencing it when you are old. By delaying your joy just to play it safe in the corporate machine, you are actively robbing your future self of decades of compounded happiness. This does not mean you should blow your money on frivolous things today. It means you must optimize for time rather than for status. Every dollar you keep out of the hands of the luxury marketing machine is a dollar you can use to buy a Tuesday afternoon with your kids. It is a dollar that buys you the energy to pursue a passion project. You are using your money to manufacture time, and then using that time to manufacture memories that will compound forever. Think about Marcus again. He is working 50 to 60 hours a week to pay for a sprawling estate, but he is never actually home to enjoy it. His children are growing up right in front of him, but he is too exhausted to be fully present. His regret at the end of his life will not be financial. It will be deeply chronological. He will realize that he successfully bought the house, but he completely missed the home. Time is the ultimate unprintable currency. Central banks can print trillions of new dollars whenever they want. Nobody can print you another hour. When you are lying on your deathbed, looking back at the span of your existence, you are not going to care about the title on your business card. You are not going to care if your neighbors thought you were successful. You will only care about how much of your life actually belonged to you. The ultimate goal of minimizing regret is to ensure that the things you value most get the highest percentage of your time. If you continue to play the status game, your employer and your creditors will consume the best years of your life. But if you fix your finish line, leverage the math of the crossover point, and ruthlessly buy back your time, you guarantee a life rich in memories, autonomy, and deep personal peace. We have covered a tremendous amount of ground today, moving from the invisible math of the crossover point to the heavy psychological burden of the status game. If there is one concept you take away from all of this, let it be the profound realization that money is merely a tool. It is not a trophy to be displayed on your driveway or a scoreboard to measure your worth against your peers. When you fundamentally understand that money is just stored energy, its highest and most noble purpose becomes crystal clear. It exists to buy back your autonomy. The traditional path we are all encouraged to walk is designed to keep you functioning as a highly productive cog in a massive economic machine. Society needs you to keep upgrading your lifestyle, taking on more debt, and returning to the office every single Monday for 40 consecutive years. It is a system built on perpetual consumption. But the moment you decide to opt out of that consumption cycle and focus instead on acquiring income-producing assets, you quietly break the machine. You take back the keys to your own existence. I want you to remember the contrast between Marcus and Elena. Marcus had the massive salary, the luxury vehicles, and the sprawling estate, but he was drowning in anxiety because he owned exactly 0% of his future. Elena lived a quiet, unassuming life, but she possessed the ultimate superpower of total time freedom. Wealth is what you don't see. It is the peace of mind that comes from knowing you could walk away from your job tomorrow and your family would still be perfectly fine. True wealth is silent, while debt is incredibly loud. The math doesn't lie. Reaching the crossover point is not a mystery reserved for lottery winners or tech billionaires. It is a simple equation based entirely on the gap between what you earn and what you spend. By locking your finish line in place and refusing to let your lifestyle creep upward with every raise, you take control of the math. You use the incredible force of compound interest to build an engine that eventually replaces your need to labor. Here's the harsh truth. No one is coming to save you from the treadmill. Your employer will happily take the best years of your life in exchange for a paycheck. The marketing industry will happily convince you that you are one luxury purchase away from true happiness. You are the only person who can look at the numbers, calculate your crossover target, and make the daily, disciplined choices required to buy back your time. The responsibility rests entirely on your shoulders. But that responsibility is also a beautiful opportunity. Whether you use the slow and steady approach or pull the levers of coast-fi and geographic arbitrage to accelerate your journey, the path is wide open. Every single dollar you invest today is a seed planted for your future freedom. You are actively purchasing Tuesday afternoons, quiet mornings with a book, and the absolute luxury of an unhurried life. The real flex in the modern world is not wearing a designer label or driving a fast car. The real flex is waking up in the morning and knowing that your time belongs entirely to you. It is the ability to work on things you genuinely care about with people you actually respect simply because you want to, not because you have to. That is what the crossover point delivers. If this video opened your eyes or gave you a new perspective, hit that like button. Let me know in the comments what your ideal future actually looks like, and make sure to subscribe for more. Remember, wealth isn't just a number in a bank account, it's the freedom to design your own life.